this next section, we're going to go over handrails or guardrails, stairs, and roofs. We'll start with stairs. And what you'll notice with the stair command is that default, it'll come with handrails. So it'll develop those things at the same slope, say as your 7-Eleven stair. It'll develop that guardrail or that handrail just the same. You can delete them afterwards. You could uncheck that. So let's look at doing that. Okay.
They're on home.
They're on home. Okay.
On the right.
There we go. So you'll see there's a few different selections here. There's run, boundary, there's even line work here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to define, let's see, let's go to the actual stair location. Where is it? There. Okay. So just for generic, you'll see that it's developing the stair for me. Right. Let's take a look at our 3D view. Voila. Easy, right? However, to get the stair to do exactly what you want is not so easy, right? Having the right type of handrail, the balustrade, the riser types, and all those things are a little more difficult. And you'll notice here as well that the stair itself and the handrail itself are different, right? You can modify them separately. And you'll notice that you have to go edit path, and you always have to be in floor plan, right? And you'll see that's the path of the handrail. I can move that offset, inset, depending on what code you're following or what design intent you like. I could just check yes. And stairs are essentially the same as doors and windows. You can modify families, you can download families and things like that. Obviously, the ones that are default with Revit are the best ones because they work with the program. They're developed for the program. Another thing that you could modify is annotation. Right? What I'm doing here is let's see here. Let's modify this guy.
Can you drop it lower?
I can drop it lower. First thing, let me modify. See how it's kind of sitting within that wall? Let's fix that first. So again, just like with a building pad or a floor plan or I'm sorry, a floor pad or floor or a roof, there's an edit mode, right? It's not only just for developing that, but you could also go back and edit it. So you'll see all the outlines here. You can modify each tread individually. Obviously, you want them to be equal, but you can modify those things. The run itself is separate from the landings. You can modify those things. You could also slope the landings, right? So there's all these parameters that you can deal with. So let's just work with getting it out of the wall. I think the easiest thing for this instance is just to move the entire stair itself. So I'll select all the line work, MV. Do not have to press enter. Once I press V, the tool is initiated, and I'll just pick a base point and say move it right out of the wall space. So let's look at that. Press the check to complete the command. Give it some time to think. I'm control tabbing through my different views. Look at my 3D view. And we're still a little bit within that, huh?
It only took the...
It moved the stair, but not. So let's modify the guardrail. It's just a matter of moving that line work, completing the command. There we go. Let's go back and widen these stairs. So I'll go back to my plan view and say, I just want to move this over like I said, this is pretty simple to develop, but then you'll start to see, well, this handrail doesn't connect here, and this handrail doesn't connect here, right? It's not a smooth transition. And that's where the difficulty in stairs in Revit comes. You'll have to move those treads back until it meets those so that they're smooth, right? And it's just a matter of moving that line work around.
But for a typical stair to get drawings on for building safety, wouldn't you just kind of make it typical? Because don't overcomplicate it. It's basic.
It's basic, yeah.
So that was one way to do a stair. What are the other two? Right? Was it the only one way?
This is probably the easiest way to get a stair started. Like I'm saying, they can get really detailed. You can detail the stairs to where it's modeled exactly how you want to build them. So essentially getting shop drawings out of the Revit file. But you can have just a basic layout where it shows the tread locations where you want them to, and you could extend, say, the horizontal handrail as far as you want it to be, and just export those DWGs. And then do the details in your drafting mode in Revit. So it's a matter of how well detailed do you want those stairs? Are you going to render them, or are you just going to export DWGs? So that's why I'm just showing you a really, really fast way of getting those things drafted.
Can you put it to the right?
Yeah.
Put another floor, and then we're going to put rails.
All right. Okay. Let's look at that. So we'll see, just like other components, there's parametric constraints. There's parametric inputs and things right there, right? So your base level is your first floor, your top level none. Even controlling the text, whether I want it there or not. So I could even turn these off if I don't want them there. Desired number of treads, actual treads. So let's see, top offset, top level none. We could say we want our top level to be level second floor. So there we go. Now it's meeting our second level. Just to make it a little more realistic, let's develop that second level. And I'm just going to go to the first level and go to my plan view. Control C, Control copy that line work. Go out of that mode. I'll go to my level 2. Go into and then just paste that line work right in. I want to select all the line work, so if I just hover over one piece of that line work and press tab, it's going to select everything that's continuous with that line work. So I'll select that. And I want to move this to, is that in the right location? Let's do that again. I'm going to do MV. Move that right there. One more time. Yellow line work's not the best. All right, complete the command.
It's right at the bottom.
That's probably here.
Yeah, just the lines.
Just the line work, yeah.
So essentially, he went into. You got it?
Let's see.
It's done.
There it is.
So essentially, what he did, Mariko asked a good question. What he did is he didn't go and copy the plate. What he did is he copied the floor lines in edit mode, so that he could paste the lines in when he's creating a floor on the second level. And why wouldn't you just copy the floor plate?
I think it's just a matter of working in a professional environment and starting a new floor plate each time. Although when you copy, say I copied my floor slab from level 1 and just copied it up to level 2 in section, although things are not supposed to come with it, because it is a parametric modeling program, you may carry other components with it. And so you always want to start out with a fresh slab, a fresh floor, a fresh roof. And so in that case, I went to an editing mode and just copied just the line work.
Perfect.
So what I'm going to do here, because you'll notice that the walls are also coming up to level 2 or the second floor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in model mode just as well, I'm going to tab and select that wall, and I'm going to do a top offset of 6 inches. Oh, that's wrong. Negative 6 inches. So now it's below that second floor plate. Do the same thing to these walls here. All right, so what about our stair? How are we going to get up there? We're going to walk through the slab? No. So we'll go back to edit mode, and what we've been doing is just doing the perimeter of these slabs, right? It's just like, I guess, Revit's really the only program that I've experienced this in, but you can do openings as well. So it's not just perimeter. So if I do this, it's going to understand that, okay, would you like walls that go up to this floor's level to attach to this bottom? Sure. And so what that's doing, it's asking me that there are walls that are touching that slab. Do you want us to attach those walls to that slab? And I'm going to say yes. And why I say yes is, say that slab moves from a 6-inch slab to a 4-inch slab, it'll pull that wall up to that new slab elevation. So again, it's just one of the parametric capabilities of Revit. I'm going to go through, unjoin, can't keep a wall, it's fine. So let's see what Revit's done for us. There we go.
Bam.
And what I can do here, say I want this to be a stair and I don't want to pull the slab over, I just want to keep this stair and just develop a landing. I'll go back, edit that sketch. Not showing that slab. Go to my, is that right? I'm just trying to see where, yeah, let's see what that does for us. Boundary line, okay. I'm going to do kind of a shortcut here. Just going to extend the existing lines out. I'm going to copy this landing line here. It's not liking my trim these.
Why wouldn't you just drag the stair, because it has a constraint to the wall, to the floor, so it intuitively make a landing.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding the question.
I think that Revit will do it on its own if you just drag the original line work.
Yeah, let's try it. Let's do that. Same way, move this up. Yeah, it's just going to be sloped. It's essentially saying, yeah.
And then
you modify, yeah.
do the slab.
Okay. Exit out of that. Discard stairs. Edit that boundary. There we go.
So essentially what he's doing is he's editing the floor slab instead. because the stair was a little, it wasn't being very friendly. Because sometimes it'll glitch out and it won't intuitively do um, your request, and sometimes that's the things that Revit needs to either one, get better at, or number two, as a user, we need to get more professional about it. And then you would do the rails, or your stair would actually, your floor would be like right there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this is just, yeah. So I mentioned earlier that the stairs typically, by default, come with the railings, but you can also develop railings individually, right? You don't need the stairs for the railings. And it's essentially the same deal, where you're developing the component itself with line work. So let's look at, say, this balcony needs a guardrail. There it is.
Yeah, I don't think you set the level.
Yep. So again, I'll just set the level, second floor, or it's first floor, right?
Yeah.
So there we go. Again, so let's look at that again. If we go to railings, you'll look here as well, right? Just like any other family, you can modify the type. And there's all these default types. You can modify the balustrade. You can develop profiles just out of, like, if you're sweeping a shape across a line in 3D AutoCAD. Similar technique. And you could also modify them after the fact. Okay, I'm going to quit that sketch. Okay. So say I just want to change that to a pipe, and you'll see there's all these default settings, right? Okay, so let's see. That handrail is not necessary, right? But let's just say it's on the wrong side. I can go to my second level. And you'll see these double arrows, and there are a lot of components that have this built-in parametric component where you can just flip which side the face is. So you can do that with walls, you can do that with doors, you can do that with windows. So I could just click that, and you'll notice that it's flipped that to the other side. Roofs?
Yeah, let's copy that wall up there, so we can put a roof on it.
Copy this wall?
Yeah, all those walls.
Okay.
And so we can put an over-exaggerated slip roof.
Okay. So I could even, okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy these walls up to the next level. So I'm just going to Control C, that selection. Let's see if I have my third level already defined. Let's see, second floor. I'm assuming it's this one. Control paste. My 3D space. So I was mentioning sometimes components come with that. So this is an instance where it's not only copied the walls, but it's copied all the components, right? Which is fine.
Will they come
So,
with
so I'm just going to move that up to second floor. Okay, that's fine.
Could you bring all that stuff with it?
Let's see.
Just do a selection.
Yeah. Thing is, it's not showing these. There we go. First floor.
Still need it.
Yeah. This file is not the best file to work in at the moment. Just going to go to my section and work on it that way. showing up in the project browser. Because this file is giving me trouble, so what I'm doing is I'm just making another level so that I can navigate in that project browser. It's not liking me today. It's not liking me at all today, huh? I apologize, this thing's just giving me a little trouble with the levels here. So floor, first floor. Second.
We'll draw some walls on that
Okay,
level and then
yeah.
make a roof.
It's like this project browser is giving me the hardest time right now. Like I want to be here. And it's not here again. This file is corrupt. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bypass that. I'm going to develop that that roof on this second level here,
Okay.
just to bypass that this thing is. So second floor. And it's not much different than really developing a pad or a roof or a ceiling. Right? Let's do a simple one. So I'll just go, how about over the whole space? So what you'll notice is that there are these little slope markers. And so what's that saying is that you want your roof to slope up from that point, up from this point, up from this point, up from this point. So say I just wanted a gable roof. What I'd do is I'd unselect that so that that's not defining a slope, so that'd essentially be flat. And that would essentially be flat. So now this will slope up and this will slope up. So let's take a look at that and see what Revit gives us. All right. Let's go back into edit mode and see what it gives us if we define all the slopes. There we go. So now let's look at editing the pitch of those slopes. There's a few ways of doing it. If you select here, you'll see it's 9 and 12. So I can modify that, say, you know, we want 4 and 12. And then I could also modify it here in the properties dialog, right? So there's typically a few ways to modify those slope directions. So there we go. We got 2 4 and 12s and 1 9 and 12. There's also another way of modifying it. So let's say I deselect all of these. I could do it with the slope arrow here. And so that's just showing I want it to slope this direction. And that's typically, you could define the level at the tail, the level at the head, and even by just saying the offset. So this is going to slope 10 feet over that whole line work.
And you would close that up. How would you close that up?
One way that I'd close this up, so say I'm just going to get rid of this floor pad here. One way of doing things is saying, like, I could pick this wall here, and there are these two attached top or base, detach. This is a pretty helpful tool. So say you have a modified ceiling plane. You could say, well, I want this wall to extend up and attach to whatever's above it. And I could do that and then select the surface. And there you go. If you have a flat roof, obviously it's easier to control that by saying just offsetting down however thick the roof is. But this is a pretty good way to work on things. I could also do that just by selecting all the walls and doing that same. Fine. Oh, if I just hover over a wall and I know that there's a string of them, I just press tab and it'll select all of them. And that works a lot with, I mean, the tab button does many different functions. It just depends on what component you're working with. So say like with the dimension string, if I press tab, it's going to snap to different materials or different components. If I'm selecting a wall, it'll select multiple walls, or it'll select even different walls. So say you have a stacked wall, like a 6-inch curb, a 6-inch concrete curb with a 4-foot wall, and then maybe like a 1-hour wall above that wall. And I'm in plan, and I could see, say, the curb and the first wall. I could tab through, and it'll tab through those selections. Yep. And so, yeah, with that review, we looked at stairs, guardrails or handrails, and developing roof with slopes.